Ring is a 1991 supernatural horror novel written by Koji Suzuki about a cursed videotape that when watched kills its viewers within a week, the process repeating with each person who views it. This tape was the creation of the vengeful spirit of Sadako Yamamura, who was killed and thrown into a well. The novel was and still is considered to be a very fine piece of horror literature, so much that it ended up spawning an entire series that's still going to this day. And in 1995, it was adapted into a film made for television known as Ring, or Ring Kanzenban, directed by Chisui Takigawa. It appears that while having a rather decent reputation, it doesn't seem to be talked about a whole lot. Unfortunately, I've yet to see it, but I do know it's got Tomoro Taguchi in it. And as you would imagine, this adaptation would be completely overshadowed by this video subject, Ring, released in 1998, directed by Hideo Nakata, who since then has become one of Japan's most celebrated horror directors, also having adapted Darkwater, based on another Suzuki novel. The film opens with two girls talking about a cursed videotape that kills people a week after it's seen. One of them describes that she has experienced this tape and eventually dies that same night. This girl, named Tomoko, is played by the late Yuko Takeuchi, marking this as one of her earliest acting roles as she went on to have a long career in film and television. Tomoko is the niece of the film's main character, Reiko Asakawa, played by acclaimed actress Nadeko Matsushima. Asakawa is investigating this phenomenon and finds out that Tomoko died along with friends who had watched the same tape with her at the same time. She then goes to the resort where they viewed it, as she finds the tape and eventually watches it, now being cursed, and must find a way to break it. This curse is the work of Sadako, who in the film was murdered by her adopted father and thrown into a well. For help, Asakawa contacts her ex-husband, a psychic named Ryuji Takayama, played by the legendary Hiroyuki Sanada. Fans of Japanese cinema certainly recognize him for starring in Yoji Yamada's The Twilight Samurai, as well as some of his Hollywood work, such as his role in Edward Zwick's The Last Samurai. He even dabbled into a little bit of tokusatsu with Message from Space: Galactic Wars. The two work together to try and get to the bottom of the curse, but unexpectedly their son Yoichi, played by Rikiya Otaka, ends up watching the tape as well. And this is a part of the film that I feel really doesn't get talked about a whole lot, and it's the family aspect. The film demonstrates the strong bond between a mother and her child and how far she is willing to go to save their life, which also makes Asakawa out to be a very strong woman that people can root for. And we also see the two leads, who are divorced, working together while also reconciling their past, which greatly humanizes them. This also must have been a very therapeutic performance for Sanada, as sometime before the filming of Ring, he himself had gone through a divorce. Additionally, Ring has a lot of things going for it. It's a classic ghost story of a vengeful spirit in a modern setting, but also blends classic ghost story elements with the modern fear of technology dominating humanity and how the growth of technology contributes to isolation. Technology can also be interpreted as a virus in the film, with the cursed VHS tape resulting in a ton of supernatural murders. And ironically enough, a method of surviving the curse is by copying the tape, but the consequence is that the curse is passed on to someone else. The title, Ring, can be interpreted as the endless cycle of the cursed videotape, as well as the ring of light seen from the bottom of the well Sadako's body was left to rot in. Or, to more fit the film's family element, a wedding ring, signifying two former lovers who've come back together. It's also worth noting that Sadako's early uncle is played by Yoichi Numata, who tokusatsu fans may remember for playing Viper in the 1966 Golden Bat film with Sonny Chiba, who was also in Message from Space. Small world. Aside from that, the music was composed by Kenji Kawai, who is one of Japan's most renowned music composers, frequently collaborating with filmmaker Mamoru Oshii, doing the music for many of his films such as The Red Spectacles and Ghost in the Shell. There is also a very creative use of special effects, with the VHS footage being shot in 35mm with a grain effect added in. The iconic scene of Sadako climbing out of the TV was a subtle mixture of practical effects and CGI, along with actress Rie Ino. Sadako is played by kabuki actress Rie Ino, and her portrayal of the character has helped elevate Sadako into being one of the most iconic characters in J-horror. Ino utilized her acting techniques in kabuki theater to create Sadako's unnerving movements, which were actually recorded backwards, then were reversed in the film to make her motions and presence creepier. I also like how you can't quite make out as to what Sadako actually looks like. Clearly, she is someone who was once human, but in no way does she behave as such. In the small touches to her design, like the lost fingernails, her pitch black hair covering her face, that incredibly unsettling image of her bulging eye close up to the camera, I get disturbed every time. Speaking of which, the film does a phenomenal job at creating tension. I've seen this film several times already, and I still get on edge and creep the hell out at certain scenes. Though I suppose on a more depressing note, adding to the film's somber tone, Mount Mihara plays a part in it. Mount Mihara is a very infamous site in Japan, as it is known as one of the numerous areas where people go commit suicide. In the film, Sadako's mother predicted that it would erupt, and then it did. Ring was a massive box office success and was met with tons of critical acclaim. The film is hailed as not only one of the greatest Japanese films ever made, but also probably the best J-horror film ever made. But if anything, Ring is easily one of the most influential horror films ever made, as at the time of its release, the film not only saw an entire film franchise, a remake that also spawned its own franchise and a reboot, and even crossing paths with another popular J-horror franchise, Ju-on the Grudge with Sadako vs. Kayako. The film saw plenty of copycats, clones, and remakes from other countries as well, in which some of those movies would also wound up finding their own remakes. It's also worth noting that Ring technically has 2 sequels. Not 2 movies that continue the story, but 2 separate films that branch off the first. The film Spiral was produced and released at the same time as Ring, hoping their marketing would complement one another to increase revenue. But Ring was just so popular that no one even bothered with Spiral, or even knew of its existence, or even knew that it was supposed to be a sequel. So because of that, Ring 2 would end up taking its place, followed by Ring Zero Birthday. However, Spiral would also wound up getting its own film series. I'm sure there's an expert that can break down just how many movies Ring ended up inspiring, but man, I don't got time for that. I think we're gonna be here all day. In short, if you're looking for a good horror movie to check out, Ring is a must. But what do you guys think? Have you seen Ring? Any other J-horror films I should cover? Drop a comment below, and I want to give a very special shout out to my channel members and my supporters on Patreon. So if you like what you see, then consider supporting the channel with the link in the description, where for at least a single dollar you can get access to my Discord server, and you can also unlock other perks like early access to videos and exclusive content. Also want to give a shout out to MD Chaos for contributing to the Patreon, meaning that part 1 of covering unmade Godzilla projects will soon come to fruition. Feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and this is TitanGoji, signing off.